Okay, so we're going to be looking at topic 9-1, which is parts of congruent triangles. Got a little bit of allergies, so my voice has dropped just a hair. So we're going to look at 9-1. This is from A&M, the A&M Consolidated Curriculum. So first of all, parts of congruent triangles. So congruent figures are figures that have the same size and the same shape. Those are key. Same size and shape. If you remember, the symbol for congruent is this. Now, what does that mean? Well, the equals represents the same size. The squiggly represents the same shape. So if I were to say AB equals CD, then I'm saying those two are equal in size. I don't have the squiggly, so we're not talking about shape. But if I said triangle ABC is similar to DEF, that's saying that they are the same shape. So size, shape, both. So for congruence, you have the equal sign with the similarity sign above it. Okay, so congruent triangles are actually triangles in which the corresponding angles, and that's a big word there, corresponding angles, and sides are congruent. So what we're going to be doing is looking at different triangles and matching up the sides and the angles of those triangles so we can determine the congruences. Now, we've seen that word corresponding before. If you remember, when we did our special angle pairs, we had corresponding angles, like 1 and 2. And we called them corresponding because they were in the same relative location, if you remember that. So they're in the relative location. So let's look here at this triangle. If I'm given that ABC is congruent to DEF, then how can I match up these sides? Well, this is called a congruence statement. That's called a congruent statement. It tells us which triangles are congruent. The order matters. So the order in which you name those triangles definitely matters. So now let's match up some sides and angles. Remember, corresponding, same relative location. If ABC is congruent to DEF, then that means that angle A is congruent to angle D. And I'm going to indicate the angle measures based on, or using arcs. So I'm going to have one arc here, one arc here. So let's look at our next angles. Our next angle is angle B. Angle B, and I'm going to use two arcs here to indicate it's a different angle, is congruent to angle E. Do you see how I'm matching them up? If I say ABC in that order and DEF in that order, that's how they match up. So let's look at the next one. Okay. Angle C, I'm going to use three arcs this time, will be congruent to angle F. Those are your corresponding, that word up here, corresponding congruent angles. Okay? Those are your corresponding congruent angles. Now, let's look at the sides. Well, if I want to do the sides, you're going to have the same idea. I have side AB. That's this one. We mark sides with slashes. Angles are arcs. Sides are slashes. Okay? AB is right here, right? So what does AB match up with? DE. That means that AB and DE are congruent. So I'm going to mark them each with one slash. Okay, let's use a different marker because this one is not thick enough. So let's use DE. It's having all kinds of fun tonight. AB is congruent to DE. All right, so let's look at the next one. I've got BC is congruent to what? Well, BC is right here. What's BC congruent to? EF. I'm going to use 2 slashes here to indicate those are different than the other sides. And BC is congruent to EF. All right, and our last one. So let's look at what we have. I've got AC, not like air conditioner, AC, matches up with DF. So AC is congruent to DF. And what you've just done is matched up the corresponding congruence angles and the corresponding congruent sides. Okay? Once again, it's all based on the original statement. I matched all of the angles based on the order of the names of the triangles. For example, if I would have called this triangle BCA instead, let's look at what we did. What does angle B match up with? Angle D. D would have been, B matches up with E. E would have had to have been first. C goes with F. F would have been second. And A matches up with D. So if I did BCA, I would have had to name the second one EFD. You can see how it matches up. And that's how you match up the corresponding parts of congruent triangles.